What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny. On this episode, we're going to be talking about fantasy starts and fantasy sits. So this is a stardom, a sit-em episode. I'm trying to get this out to you guys before the Thursday night game. So I hope this podcast and this episode brings you value. If it does, please share it. Please like, subscribe on Apple, and give me a rating. I would gladly appreciate it. And for anybody who wants to support the podcast, there's also a link in my link tree on how you can support this podcast. So guys, hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hey guys, this is your boy Manny. Ever wanted to make a podcast but you never really knew how? Anchor is the key. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast to places such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Also, you can make money from your podcast right away. You don't need no minimum listenership to start making money. Everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead and get started today. Download the Anchor app at the App Store or go to anchor.fm to get started. So let's go over some quarterbacks to start this week in fantasy. I like Big Ben Roethlisberger versus the Giants. The Giants are just terrible. So, he's coming back off that injury and he has a lot to prove. So he's going to go out there and try to put up over 300 yards and a few scores. So Big Ben is definitely going to be a play. He has some really good receivers to go to, and the Giants have not improved defensively, especially in the secondary. Then you got Josh Allen, who goes against the Jets. We don't know if the Jets are going to have a good defense or not, but I do know that Josh Allen is playing a division foe who are, lowly. I mean, they just lost Jamal Adams. The defense has some pieces, but I think that Josh Allen has his way. He's going to look to establish Stephon Diggs as a number one target. So I expect Josh Allen to have a pretty good game. He might throw for about 250 yards, maybe run for another 50, and maybe have 3 total touchdowns. So Josh Allen is definitely a play. You also want to play Matt Ryan this Sunday. He plays against the Seattle Seahawks, and that's a potential shootout right there. So if that's a shootout, expect Calvin Ridley and Julio and Hayden Hurst to get a lot of pass targets. I expect them to throw the ball a lot. So Matt Ryan is a good play. I also like Big Ben Roethlisberger, man. He's coming off the injury. I know he's 38 years old. I know he's been in the league for 17 years, going on 17 years. But he's still definitely one of the elite quarterbacks when he's healthy. He has Juju Smith-Schuster ready. He has Deontay Johnson. So I like Big Ben in this game. Cam Newton, his premier debut with the Patriots, and he's playing the Miami Dolphins, man. Yes, they have a stacked cornerback group, but at the same time, man, it's Cam. The Miami Dolphins are still the Miami Dolphins. It's still a Bill Belichick coached team. I expect Cam to establish himself, hitting James White and Edelman for short passes, and I do expect him to run the ball a little bit. Being that he's healthy, you want to ride him until he starts to get hurt. I don't know if Cam Newton makes it the whole season, but as of right now, he's definitely in play for week 1. Carson Wentz plays the Washington football team. You expect the Washington football team to have a very good defense this year, but at the same time, there's lots of uncertainty there, and we don't know what that defense is going to look like. We don't know what the secondary is going to look like. So Carson Wentz is a pretty decent play. He's not high on my list as a must play or a must start, but he's definitely on my list as a guy to play. So Carson Wentz, more so if you don't have a choice. Like, I'm in a 2 quarterback league and I have Carson Wentz as my QB1 and maybe a guy like Josh Allen and then Tannehill. I'm playing Carson Wentz over Tannehill versus the Broncos. Now, Jared Goff is a guy that puts up lots of yards, and he has potential to put up a lot of touchdowns this year. I like Jared Goff a lot. I'm going to start him over guys like Tom Brady. I'm starting him over Tom Brady because there's a potential shootout between the Dallas Cowboys and the LA Rams. I really like Jared Goff this year, and especially this game. He's going to be starting. I'm looking for Jared Goff to have a bounce back year and a bounce back week. For my sleepers, I have guys like Tyrod Taylor. He's playing the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, it's the Bengals. So look for Tyrod Taylor to have a safe game. He's a guy that, it's safe, even though the guys like Mike Williams might not play. I still like Tyrod Taylor as a sleeper in deep leagues. I like Phillip Rivers a lot this season. He finally has an offensive line, and then he finally has a running game. I don't think he throws for 20 interceptions this season. So look for Phillip Rivers to be right around 20 points. Look for Derek Carr as another sleeper. He's playing the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers is another team that gave up a lot of points to quarterbacks last year. So he's definitely a guy that you might want to rock with. Guys to sit, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. People are counting him out. He's 36 years old. He's in his 16th season. Even though he didn't play the first couple years in the league, Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback, but I just don't know how he's going to be against Minnesota. Now, I do understand that Minnesota lost their best pass rusher for 3 weeks. Still, I will just wait and see with Aaron Rodgers. Play him if you don't have a choice. Another sleeper that I do like is Matthew Stafford. Regardless of who he's playing the Chicago Bears. I still like Matthew Stafford. I believe that Matthew Stafford has an amazing season this year. I believe that Matthew Stafford ends up being a top 7 to top 10 quarterback this season. Daniel Jones, do not start him. Baker Mayfield, do not start him. I'm just not messing with Baker Mayfield this year, especially when he's playing Baltimore twice and playing the Steelers twice. He's just not a quarterback that's on my radar. Joe Burrow, do not start him. I'm going to talk about defenses in a minute, but these are some of my sleepers. And also, I do like Kyler Murray this week, even though he's playing against San Francisco. If he does play well, Kyler Murray is going to be a must start. If he can get by the San Francisco defense and not get a lot of sacks or make a lot of turnovers or, fumble the ball, then he's just going to do very, very well moving forward. So Kyler Murray is like a fringe start. I'm not saying that he's the best bet, but a lot of us drafted Kyler Murray in the top 6 rounds. So he's definitely a guy that you want to play. But let's see how he does against the elite defense like the San Francisco 49ers. All right, guys, let's kick this episode with the fantasy starts and sits for the running back position. So let's dive in. If you're playing in a PPR league, this will be a treat for you. But let's kick it off with some of the best offensive lines in football, some of the best running games in football. You want to start Raheem Mostert this week. He is the bona fide number 1 running back in that awesome running attack. Now, I do understand that Tevin Coleman is back and ready to dig into the attempts for Mostert. And then also Jerick McKinnon is back and he's healthy as well. So it's a little muddy out there, but Raheem Mostert just got paid. And it seems like Shanahan loves this guy. And, he's only 28 years old. He has 6 years of experience, but last year was his coming out party. A lot of people are projecting him to have over 1,000 yards and up to 9 to 10 touchdowns. So let's see what happens with touches in that backfield. But Raheem Mostert is more than capable. He's not the best in the receiving game, but he can be a factor in the receiving game. But I do see Raheem Mostert having a big game versus the Arizona Cardinals. I do expect San Francisco 49ers to win the game. So that means they're going to be playing with the lead. And if they're playing with the lead, that means they're running out the clock. So Raheem Mostert is a start potential guy that can possibly win you your week. I'm not a Raheem Mostert guy. I don't have him really in any leagues, but he's available for those who like him. Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. They have the best offensive line in football, but I'm going Marlon Mack over Jonathan Taylor. I do believe that Marlon Mack starts the year as the starting running back this season, and then I do see Jonathan Taylor coming in as that starter and taking over the job the last half of the season. So to start the season, go Marlon Mack. He's going to run the ball well, and they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. They suck. So they're going to be losing. So that means running out the clock. So in that fourth quarter, when they do have the lead, you're going to see a lot of runs with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. I do understand they have Phillip Rivers. Somebody told me they brought Phillip Rivers to change the team. They brought in Phillip Rivers to be a passing team. That doesn't make any sense. The guy's old. I do like Phillip Rivers this year, but I think that Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor run the ball, and I expect both to score touchdowns. Do not be surprised. I see both scoring a touchdown apiece. Like I said before I started, if you like PPR, you're in for a treat. If you're looking for a PPR back because of circumstance and situations, you want to look at Tariq Cohen, James White, Zach Moss, and a sleeper in Antonio Gibson. But first, I'm going to start with Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen is a guy that's going to get more touches in the backfield than most weeks because David Montgomery, he's probably going to be out for this first game and possibly out again in week 2. So I do see Tariq Cohen gaining more attempts rushing the ball. He's going to be a guy that's going to catch the ball regardless. He's like a mini wide receiver. Last year, he had 79 receptions, although he only had 456 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was still a pretty good receiving back. He's one of the best in the entire NFL. So look for Tariq Cohen to have a role, but I like him as a high-end flex guy, and I like him a lot in PPR. In non-PPR, good luck. May the force be with you. James White is a guy that just does the same thing over and over and over again. He had 72 receptions last year for 645 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's going to be even more of a PPR monster this year with Cam Newton. Cam Newton loves to throw to running back, so look for Burkhead and James White to have a good game. And they're playing the Miami Dolphins. Those guys are terrible. Those guys are trash. So that just means that there's more opportunity for the Patriots to do damage. I understand that with Cam coming in, the whole offense is going to be different from years past, but I like James White. Sony Michel is back. He could be limited. He could be on a snap count. So you can expect James White to even have a few more carries than he normally would have. But he's going to be a PPR guy. Expect him to get anywhere between 6 to 7 catches, maybe 64, 65 yards. And if he gets a score, you most likely won your week 1. I mean, if James White gives you 20 PPR points, you most likely would win that week. So James White was a guy that I was grabbing late in drafts with the potential of, being a back that can possibly be a high-end running back too in PPR. Do not be surprised. I see James White getting more carries this year than he's ever had in any season. Zach Moss is a guy that I'm hearing a lot of great things about him. I'm hearing that he's going to be a factor in the passing game. I'm hearing that he's going to be a factor in the goal line carries. But all these things are all speculations. It's all about how the game goes. But yeah, Zach Moss, I'm on the Zach Moss train. Start him versus the Jets. The Jets are terrible, so that means maybe Buffalo's playing with the lead. But I want to see what Zach Moss does in the passing game. They say he's a capable pass catcher. So we're going to see what happens there. And my sleeper, like I said, is Antonio Gibson. He's going to be a guy that is going to be a monster in the PPR format because he's such a great pass catcher. He was a wide receiver in college. So I'm expecting Antonio Gibson to have at least 5 receptions come Sunday. And don't be surprised if he gets a score. If he gets a score and if he gets more than 15 carries, then that means that his role is going to grow. I see Antonio Gibson finishing out as the number 1 running back in DC. But do not sleep on Bryce Love. But for now, Antonio Gibson is the guy out of the 3 backs that I expect to play a lot on Sunday. Gibson is going to be the guy to have the most fantasy impact, especially in PPR. If you guys listened to my last episode, I talked about Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams is a guy that's still going to eat in PPR. This guy did very well last year coming in spots. So he had 15 receptions last year for 167 yards, and then he also had 141 rushing yards. But this season, all that is going to go up. I see him getting a lot of receptions. I see him getting a lot of rushing yards and a lot of receiving yards. He's going to have more than 4 touchdowns. So Darrell Williams is a guy in a high explosive offense. If for some reason Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down with injury or he's not playing well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to play well. But for some odd reasons, things don't work out. Darrell Williams is a guy that you need to grab right now. There should be no reason why he is on the free agent market. Last season, he had a lot of good games where he scored at least 12 PPR points. So it's something to really look at. He had like 3 or 4 games of 12 PPR points or more. So, like I said, he's a guy that's capable. He's quick. He's just a nice back. He's a nice back. And him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire both went to LSU, so there's that connection right there. Chris Thompson is a guy that you want to grab and you want to start him this week because Jacksonville is going to be losing a lot. They're going to be losing a lot. So when you're losing, you're checking it down to the PPR back. Leonard Fournette had over 70 receptions last year, and with Leonard Fournette gone, and with that whole Jacksonville Jaguars running back situation looking all crazy, Chris Thompson is the guy to trust. I believe that Chris Thompson gets a lot of targets, and he's going to be a guy that can win you some fantasy weeks. So go with Chris Thompson this week against Indiana. They're going to be losing and losing and losing, so that means more passing yards for Minshew, more receptions for guys like Chark and Chris Thompson. Those are my stardom and sit-ems for the running back position. I'll give you guys two more. You want to take a look at Phillip Lindsay and also Boston Scott. If you're in a deep league, Phillip Lindsay and Boston Scott are not bad options. If you drafted with the 0 running back rule, then most definitely Boston Scott is a guy that you might want to start because there's only 2 running backs that really matter in Philly, and that's Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. And with the Philly wide receivers being banged up, look for the tight ends and the running backs to get more involved in the passing game. So, with that being said, keep an eye out on him. And then also, you might want to go with Phillip Lindsay. I mean, it seems like it's heading into a complete split timeshare between Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. But I like Melvin Gordon more because he catches more passes. But just keep an eye out on what happens and how these touches are broken down. But if you're in a deep league, you might want to give Phillip Lindsay a chance. But if you're in a regular league, Phillip Lindsay is not much of an option. But now with Von Miller going down, what does that defense look like? Does that affect the running game? Does that affect the passing game? So all that is going to be answered on Monday Night Football versus the Titans. I'm excited for that game particularly. But Phillip Lindsay's a guy that you can use as a deep dive, Hail Mary start if you're in a deep league. Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize on your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for an ad space so that you can always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today and become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add Talking Sports with Manny in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Thank you so much. Let's look at my favorite position in fantasy, and it's the wide receiver group. The wide receiver group is so intriguing this particular season because there's so many guys that you can go with, and there's some premier matchups this week. You have Terry McLaurin versus Darius Slay. You have Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. You have Jalen Ramsey versus Amari Cooper. So a lot of these top tier shutdown corners are going to scare you from starting some guys, but you draft these guys early. You just got to stick it out because if you're playing in PPR and if a guy like Amari Cooper going against Jalen Ramsey, if he gets about 7 receptions for, let's say, 70 yards, that's a nice little 14 points. And you'll take that. You'll take that 14 points versus some of these top tier guys. You might not score on these top tier guys, but you can definitely get some receptions. Guys that I like this week, I like A.J. Brown a lot. A.J. Brown is going against the Broncos. Yes, the Broncos are dealing with issues defensively. They've lost Von Miller for the season. Bradley Chubb is on a snap count. So they're trying to bring in, what's his name? The guy that played in Clay Matthews. Clay Matthews played with Green Bay for some years. So A.J. Brown is a guy that can have a lot of points. Like, I say this, he has potential to be a number one, to finish wide receiver 1 this year because he is the only legit target out there on a team that does run the ball. But so I expect a lot of targets for A.J. Brown. And I mean, the guy is a yak monster. Like, he had 52 receptions last year for 1,000 yards. Just do the math. He averaged 13.6 points per game. So he's one of the better wide receivers in the game in his sophomore season. I felt that he was the best route runner in the draft coming in. I'm going to say for Stephon Diggs, he's not a must start for me, but He's a guy that I'm intrigued to see how he plays. He is playing the Jets. Like I said, the Jets defense is pretty weak, so he should have an opportunity to go off against the Jets. I like T.Y. Hilton. I like anything Colts this year. I love the running backs. I love the wide receivers. I love Phillip Rivers. So expect T.Y. Hilton to catch a few bombs in this game. I see them playing with the lead, but if T.Y. can come up to a big start in the first half, he's going to have a big game. So when I say big start in the first half, I'm looking at maybe 60 yards and a touchdown. By halftime, then you know he's going to give you some pretty big points. He did average 12.5 points a game last year. He got injured, so he had only 45 receptions for 501 yards and 5 touchdowns. So in the early first 4 games last year, T.Y. Hilton was definitely getting a lot of touchdowns, and I was excited to see that. Will Fuller is a guy that I am looking at, man. This guy right here has the potential to have the biggest jump out of all the wide receivers in the NFL because DeAndre Hopkins leaves, and those 160-plus targets can go to guys like Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Cobb and Stills. Now, we've heard a report that Brandon Cooks is a game-time decision. Look, even before that news, I was starting Will Fuller all over the place. I've been buying low on Will Fuller, and I'm going to ride this Will Fuller train until the wheels fall off. I like Will Fuller. I expect Will Fuller to have a big game, and this is going to be a game that's a potential shootout. You have DJ Chark, man. Everybody in Jacksonville is going to get a lot of receiving yards because they are going to be terrible and they're going to be losing. So last year, DJ Chark had 118 targets. I'm expecting about 150 to 170 targets for DJ Chark. I know that's a crazy sounding number, but I'm telling you, the Jags are going to be so terrible that all they can do this season is to pass to come back. So I'm expecting DJ Chark to have up to 100 receptions this year. I expect him to have over 10 touchdowns this year and up to close to 1,500 yards. I'm telling you, DJ Chark is going to blow up this season. He's going to be a household name. So starting with confidence because they're going to be losing just about every game. So I'm buying every single Jacksonville player that I can buy. Henry Ruggs is a sleeper because the Vegas Raiders are going to be starting 2 rookie wide receivers. So I really like Henry Ruggs. Hollywood Brown, he was a flash in the pan last season, but I don't know what he's going to do this season. Maybe he goes deep again. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he has an impact. Maybe he has close to 1,000 yards this year. I don't know. So let's see the progression of Hollywood Brown. But he is going against Cleveland come Sunday. So he should do pretty well. I don't trust Cleveland. Even though they have some top corners out there, they have a very good defense, but I feel like Hollywood Brown can do something. A guy that you want to take a dive, a deep dive on is Deshaun Jackson. Last year versus the Washington football team, he had 2 big long bombs. So you can expect that, but I don't know if he repeats that same production. But like I said, in a deep league, in a deep dive, Deshaun as in your flex or as your third wide receiver or a league that has 2 flexes, he's definitely in play for a flex spot. Anthony Miller is another guy who's a deep play for deeper leagues. He can be a guy that can get a lot of receptions this year and working that slot, you can expect him to do some damage, regardless if it's Terry McLaurin or if it's regardless if it's Nick Foles or if it's Terry Trubisky, Mitch Trubisky. See, the Bears are so bad that I don't even know all the names of everybody that's on their team. It's just that bad. But I do like Anthony Miller this year. I think he has a lot of upside and a lot of potential. And if Allen Robinson is getting double teamed, somebody got to catch the ball. They don't really have a legit tight end. They brought in Jimmy Graham, but who cares about Jimmy Graham? They drafted Cole Kmet, but Anthony Miller is that guy that's on the team along with Tariq Cohen that can eat up a lot of targets for this team. And especially if their defense takes a step back, expect them to pass the ball more. Deontay Johnson, man, this guy, I am so excited about him because Last year, with terrible quarterbacks, he had 59 receptions for almost 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. With Big Ben is going to use this guy. Big Ben is going to make this guy a star. Expect to see Juju Smith-Schuster type numbers in Deontay Johnson's second year. He has the potential to have over 1,000 yards and about 7 scores this season. Start him with confidence versus the Giants. Sit A.J. Green. Sit Devontae Parker. He's going against Stephon Gilmore, who is the best corner in the league. You might want to sit Christian Kirk. I don't know who's going to do work on that receiving core for the Arizona Cardinals this first game, especially playing against San Francisco. So, I mean, start him with caution, man. Emmanuel Sanders, you might want to sit him. Just to kind of see how the targets are going to be shared in this very first game. OBJ, I don't fool with him. He messed me up last year, so I don't have to worry about that. And then Amari Cooper is a guy that you got to sit, man. He's playing against Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey just got paid, and he's motivated, and he's excited. So for me, I have to start Amari Cooper in the league, but I'm going to see if benching him gives me a chance to win. All I really need out of Amari Cooper is 10 to 12 points, and I hope he gets me that. But I'm going to evaluate my team and see if Amari Cooper is a sit candidate for me. Let's take a look at the tight end position. The tight end position is just so tricky. I like Tyler Higbee a lot this season, and I like him in this first game versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys lost a lot of talent. They recently just cut Clinton Dix. So who was their safety? They have not signed Earl Thomas, so I don't know what they're doing to safety. Expect Higbee to have a big game. He's going to pick up where he left off last year, which was averaging 18 points per game to end the season in the last 5 games. But, I mean, with Cooper Kupp coming back, motivated, in a contract year. You got Robert Woods, you got Van Jefferson, a lot of mouths to feed. But like I said, I do expect Jared Goff to have a big season, and I think that Higbee has a very good first game. Blake Jarwin is a guy that's a sleeper this season in this new Dallas attack. Blake Jarwin can definitely pay dividends for you if you was able to grab him late in the draft. He's playing the Rams. Expect Amari Cooper to be covered, so there's going to be a lot of other guys opening, and Blake Jarwin might be one of those guys. I like Jared Cook this week versus Tampa Bay. He's one of those guys that is boom or bust, but he's more boom now that they've added Emmanuel Sanders. I think that Jared Cook benefits the most out of Emmanuel Sanders signing with the Saints. And for my sleepers, I like guys like Jack Doyle versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jack Doyle is going to eat because Phillip Rivers loves his tight end. Jonnu Smith is a guy that I expect a breakout from, and he's playing Denver. Denver does not know how to cover tight ends, so expect Jonnu Smith to eat in that game. I'll say sit guys like Chris Herndon. Sit guys like Austin Hooper until you kind of figure out what that target share looks like. T.J. Hawkinson, for me, is a wait and see. And then Evan Ingram, coming off that injury and then playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers with Minkah Fitzpatrick being there, I just don't know if Ingram does what Ingram is supposed to do. So I would say bench Ingram. Now, some of the defenses that I'm looking at starting, it's the Colts. Like I told you guys, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be so terrible, and the Colts added DeForest Buckner, and he is a big guy in that middle. So look for Gardner Minshew to be running crazy, running for his life. But I expect the Colts to have a lot of sacks. They could create some turnovers for you guys. Also, I like the Chargers versus Cincinnati. You got Bosa out there. You got Ingram. You got Hayward. You got Harris in the passing game. So look for the Cincinnati Bengals to try to limit a lot of the things that Joe Burrow is going to do, but I think that Joe Burrow gets beat up. So until he shows me that he can play against elite defenses, I'm starting every defense that's playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my strategy to start the year. And if you're in my league listening to this, do not steal my strategy. Just kidding. It's all good. I like the Titans a lot now that they've added Clowney to the squad. Andrew Luck, he's another young guy, so expect the Titans to get after him. And if the Titans can get after him successfully, Titans can pay you dividends in this game. You can see some turnovers. You can see a guy like Kevin Byard get an interception, and maybe you might be able to see a pick six. You want to sit defenses such as the Rams. Dallas is going to try to put up as many points as possible, so I don't trust most defenses playing Dallas. Kickers, my strategy for kickers is go for the kickers that are on high-profile teams, okay? Like the Harrison Butkers and the Justin Tucker and, people like that, Will Lutz. Get those guys. But also a sleeper kicker, not just for this week, but for the entire season, is Chris Boswell. Chris Boswell for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a very good kicker, and I expect the Steelers to average a lot of points. So look for Chris Boswell to kick a lot of field goals and score a lot of points against the lowly Giants. So he's definitely my must-start candidate. Then you got a guy like Jason Myers. Russell Wilson always moves the ball, so expect Jason Myers to hit a few field goals here and there. And then you got Stephen Gostkowski that used to be with the Rams on the Titans. And the Titans are another team that moves the ball. They're going to control the clock, and sometimes they play that field goal game because they have a very good defense and they feel like they can run the ball. So they're never in a rush to score, but they can score. I do like Stephen Gostkowski this game and moving forward. So guys, this is my episode, man. I just want to kind of get this thing out to you guys before the game tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please share this episode with as many people as you can. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate on Apple. And be sure to follow me on YouTube, Talking Sports with Manny, as well as Facebook, Talking Sports with Manny. My Twitter and IG handle is TS with Manny. Thank you guys. Y'all be blessed. And I'm out.